Welcome to the Jack Mountain Bushcraft Podcast, episode 122.
Welcome to the Jack Mountain Bushcraft Podcast with your host, Jack Mountain Bushcraft School founder and Master Main Guide, Tim Smith.
I'm your host, Tim Smith. I'm a registered Master Main Guide and have been a full-time outdoor instructor and guide since founding the Jack Mountain Bushcraft School in 1999. We help people become more skilled, more knowledgeable, more experienced, and more confident in the natural world through our bushcraft and guide training semester programs and multi-week canoe and snowshoe expeditions. You can check out the show notes to all of our podcasts at blog.jackmtn.com. If you're interested in learning more about our college-accredited and GI Bill-approved programs, visit the Jack Mountain Bushcraft School on the web at jackmtn.com. And check out our online network and digital learning academy at bushcraftschool.com. Hello and welcome back to the Jack Mountain Bushcraft Podcast. It is Wednesday, May 22nd. We're in the middle of the Wilderness Canoe Expedition Semester. Bugs are out. People are suffering. I can hear the cries of lamentations as the bugs suck all of the blood out of people. They're like, I didn't think they'd be this bad. And we're sitting inside away from the bugs, thankfully. I'm joined here with Rick and Oz, as from the last couple of episodes. And we're going to discuss bugs, the course, and other current events that seem to be going on and affecting us. How's it going today, gentlemen?
Doing well.
Good. Good morning.
Enjoying fifth cup of coffee and just getting all jacked up for the day.
We're all jacked up at Jack Mountain.
Jacked Mountain. We just got back from a week in the woods, a week-long trip, and I'm curious your guys' thoughts on that. Put in at the headwaters of our local river and floated back. Always a good time. And I think there was a lot of learning going on with the trip and the folks on it. So, anything jump out at you guys as to something worth mentioning?
Yeah, I think one of the things that pops out is I heard a few of the students. We kind of threw out the decision on do we want to come back a little bit early. We were all making good time, and I heard a few students bring up that they've learned a lot on how to pack differently. There was a lot of loose items, disorganization, and I think it really hit home on what they need to bring, how they need to pack after seeing some of the ways that we did things out there. So that was one of the big things I picked up on.
Yeah, I think this trip was a huge learning experience for the students. I think not only the way they packed, but I think menus kind of got figured out a little better, right? I think we eat different when we're out on the trail, when we're out working hard every single day, and even we eat different than when we're in class, right? When we're just here at base camp, even though we're still working really hard, for some reason you don't consume quite as much. And as soon as you get out there and you're putting in the miles, as soon as you're getting into camp, you're setting up tripods, you're cutting wood, you're setting up everything you need to. I think people find that they need about 1,000 more calories than they did the day before. So, and I think that starts to compile over time, and you really start to see that right around day 4, when people start running a huge deficit, and all of a sudden, the motivation level drops, and that's when the bugs start to get to you, the weather starts to get to you, your lack of food starts to get to you, and you just can't work as hard. And I think that's the lesson that has to be learned that way, right? I think it's only a painful lesson.
I think it's a great point that when we're in camp or when you're listening to this, you're at home, you don't think about like drinking water. You just like, oh, when I'm thirsty, I drink a little water. But like on the trail, you've got to purposely drink enough water to keep the motor going. Same with food, and maybe more so with food. Like you have to purposely design your day around when you're going to take in fuel for this glorious engine that is the human body. And people that don't think of it that way run out of gas and are exhausted and sitting down, and exhaustion leads to a certain level of misery, I think.
Yeah, I think too, a lot of the students think, okay, I have 2 water bottles and I'll boil water and I'll have enough to exchange throughout the day. But I mean, on a good hot day, I've been known to drink 2 gallons of water, no problem, right? So it's hard to keep up at that pace unless you've done it before or you are properly set up prior to. And the same thing goes with food. Is you can't show up with like a bag of garbanzo beans from Walmart and expect that to get you through the day. So
not chickpeas.
No. Definitely garbanzo beans.
Strawberry Pop-Tart.
So, yeah. I think that people show up on diets that they really want to try to stick to. And, that's great. And if you can do it, that's great. And if you're here to lose weight, you'll definitely do that. But out here, you got to pack on calories, which means you need to be eating protein. You need to be eating fats. You have to be eating salts so you can retain your fluids. And... you're just not going to find that with a traditional quick food diet that you can buy from Walmart.
Quality product of Walmart.
That's right.
The point being, like, the expedition is physically strenuous, and the expedition diet needs to accommodate that. And I think it's a huge learning curve, I think, for people, and it's a difficult one to learn because no one thinks it'll affect them. Oh, I'll be fine. This will affect other people, but it seems to affect everyone. So much so, like, I saw a guy, I don't know if you guys could corroborate this, but I saw a guy this past trip eat a huge dinner twice and then ate a whole bag of candy.
I heard of that guy. There's always room for candy. Always.
You got the meat sweats that night.
Just laying on the ground saying, I might not be able to hold this down, and then eat a whole bag of candy right after.
I don't know anything about that.
No comment. Yeah. But just that idea that, like, calories matter. If you ever read expedition literature, I'm a huge fan of reading about Ernest Shackleton's ill-fated Antarctic expedition. I've probably read close to every book that's been written on it a couple of times, and you learn how those guys were just constantly putting calories into the body. And old Shackleton knew that, we got to keep feeding these guys. We got to keep putting the energy into the motor. Otherwise, they're not going to be able to continue. And I think the worse the weather, the harder the trip physically, the more that stuff matters.
I read somewhere, and feel free to fact check me, but during the Lewis and Clark expedition, or the Clark and Lewis expedition as we call it here.
Poor Lewis. Poor Clark.
They were eating about 9 pounds of meat per man during that expedition per day. So they were putting down a lot of food. And I know that sounds ridiculous, but that's an actual number that I've read. So
in here, pretty well documented, northern Maine in the old logging camps, those guys were eating like 7,000 calories a day and then some. They would eat, I think, 5 full meals a day. But when you're out in the cold, like working physically hard, there's one way to pull that off if you're going to do it for more than a day, and that's to put a lot of gas in the motor. Like, you don't get out on the interstate and run your car at 90 miles an hour for 15 hours a day and not constantly put gas into it. But we think for some reason, oh, my body I'll figure it out. I'm used to hard work. Like, no, you're not. Yeah. you need to gas up.
Yes.
So things in the on the river, things are often physically hard. We lost a guy this week. We had a guy bit older than the average student, but I don't know that that was a huge factor. But anyway, just wasn't getting good sleeps, started to get repetitive stress injuries in his wrists, and was having trouble like making a fist sort of a thing in order to come at me and punch me in the face. So that's hard. Like, it's hard on the group dynamic to lose somebody midstream. But I'm just curious what you guys think about, we often will try to tell people, yeah, it's going to be physically difficult, but I think the things that people train for in thinking that it's physically difficult out here maybe aren't the right things.
Yeah, definitely. Just talking to a few of the students and what they did in preparation coming here, and a lot of them, mentioned they went to the gym and did traditional type workouts where that's great for, when you're not swinging an axe and using all these different muscles and tendons that you're not used to using. So, our advice would be, if you're going to come to this course, train up doing things that you'll be doing here, like swinging an axe, using a knife on a daily basis. And if you have the opportunity to get out and start paddling, just getting into those different types of range of motions will build up those muscles that you don't use on a daily basis. So,
I also think adjusting your baseline is very important, right? I think that, if I'm at home and there's a mosquito in my house, I don't want that one mosquito in my house, and I notice him, right? When I'm here, I can get pretty bothered by things before I really start to allow them to affect me. And I think part of that is just being able to lower expectations, lower that baseline of discomfort, and tell yourself, look, pain and it's not even that. We're not talking about pain where you need to go to a doctor. We're just talking about the pain of physical effort and doing it day in and day out. But if you can set your mind that is just the way it's going to be, I think it's easier to accomplish those things. But again, that's a mindset I think that people have to kind of train for as well. Is you're not only training your joints and your tendons and your muscles, but you got to start training your mindset that you're here and you're going to work hard. And it's going to be a challenge, and you're going to have to put forth some effort, and you're going to have some awesome days where you look around and go, I'm one of the luckiest people on earth. And you're also going to have some days when you look around and you just smile and go, I can't even believe this is real right now, the amount of bugs or, sweat or whatever is going on. So, lowering that baseline and just kind of coming to terms with where you are.
Yeah, and keep in mind that everything that you need to do takes extra time here. So cooking a meal takes extra time because you have to gather the wood, build the fire. Yesterday reminded me laundry. I did laundry by hand, and it took me, a couple of hours. And as I'm wringing out my clothes, I can feel the muscles that, from the past trip, the repetitive stress building up, just the simple act of wringing out clothes. So it's everything that you do here is going to take longer because you're starting from scratch. You just don't put your clothes into a machine, hit the button on the tree, and that magic washing machine out in the woods does your laundry. So be prepared for that. Just extra time to do simple things on a daily basis.
And laundry is I'm just curious, laundry is a French word for going and buying new clothes?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. I don't think we've recorded a podcast where we didn't harp on, at least in some capacity, just like the physicality of the woods life. But really that's what it is. Ultimately, the only engine that you have in a remote environment is your body. So if you're going to get something done, it's you physically doing the work. And I think that in our modern world, we are used to being able to push buttons and have microwaves and everything's got a little motor in it to do the work for you, and that just doesn't exist. So that's the, us talking about getting ready to come out here, getting ready for a remote trip, getting ready for a long expedition, whether it's here or anywhere else, is just steeling yourself, getting your body ready for, like, if anything's going to happen, I'm going to be the one that has to do it. Mm-hmm. And I think that's kind of an important jumping off point, that it's basically the antithesis to the modern world, where everything is like, convenience is we worship at the altar of convenience, right? The gods on our Mount Olympus as a culture are sort of the gods of convenience, and you don't have to lift a finger, sort of a thing. My phone connects with some other thing, and that gets all the work done while I, ride around in the passenger seat of the self-driving car. Yeah. Doesn't really work in the woods life.
That being said, though, if you're a potential student who's thinking of coming here, let me tell you, the hardest person I have seen in the 3 years that I've been here was a 5-foot female who weighed nothing, and you couldn't stop her. Tessa could swing an axe with the best of us all day long, paddle a canoe all by herself, carry her own stuff, carry my canoe if she needed to, right? So if you're sitting there going, oh man, I just don't know if I have the strength or the fortitude to do this. These guys are making it sound so terrible. Let me tell you, you do. You really do. And I've seen it, and she's still an inspiration. So it can be done.
Let's talk about our small friend, Tessa. I spoke to her yesterday. She just ran a workshop at one of the, I think every state has these, Becoming an Outdoors Woman, or the BOW workshops. She crushed it. Her workshop sold out before any of the others. She's currently, doing workshops at places like that, and working with youth who are doing therapy at Summit Expeditions, I think.
I think so.
Yeah, just crushing it. So sounded great. We're excited for her. We're excited for her to come back at some point and start running courses just for women. I think I was joking with her yesterday, like, you know what women want to come to a workshop is with like 3 old gray bearded guys. Like, yeah, no, they don't. So we're gonna make Tessa come back and start doing workshops for women, because I think that's a huge potential for this industry, is that it's usually a male-dominated kind of industry, but I think that we've had her and a few other women who've come through, just super talented people, and excited for her to jump on that.
Yeah, I can't say enough good about Tessa. She's not only a phenomenal woods woman, but she's extremely intelligent, knows her information, a great instructor, and
yes.
Also a phenomenal friend. So
absolutely, miss you, Tess.
And
love you, Tess.
Thankfully has a good, well, if you guys are both going that way, Tess is the worst person I've ever met. I'll be the contrarian. Like, what an awful person. What a piece of garbage.
You can see Tessa saying, I can see Tessa saying, oh, I miss that so much.
But I think you raise a really good point that, like, when you decide that, okay, this is my life now and I'm going to physically do this, like, it's a mental decision in order to be able to have your body do all that work. And some people get it right out of the gate. They figure that out and can make that decision. And for some people, it takes them a while. So we've got one more trip coming up on this course, and then we'll have our testing protocol at the end of the month. We're in the middle of a 4-week canoe guide and expedition leader training course. Usually week 1, we're in camp and around here getting the basics of canoeing, axe work, fires, things like that. week 2.5, we're out in the field on a trip, and that's what we just got back from first trip. So today we're going to spend the day doing canoe rescues, doing some advanced moving water poling, and then we head out on our second big expedition. And usually, because people learn, they figure out what they don't know on the first expedition. Usually the second expedition is where we're really dialing in kind of the finer points of a lot of the things that we cover. And then we come back and we do the testing protocol. So people will have to show that they know the skill sets of poling, paddling, rescue, knots, axe work, wet weather fire, all the things that would be well within the job description of a guide. So we're looking forward to getting wet today, tea rescue in the pond kind of a thing, and then we'll head down to our local rip at the starch factory. A rip is a main word for like an easy, not too challenging rapid, so we'll head down to the local rips and pole up and down and all over the place. Kind of looking forward to that.
I have high expectations today too. I think everybody coming off of a day of rest, and we had a lot of people the last 2 days of the last trip. Took a little bit more initiative, saw the poles come out a bit more, and I'm hoping today's a great day for them too. So I think everybody could use a win, to put in that back pocket.
For sure.
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge today is going to be the insects. Mosquitoes and black flies are out in swarms today.
I love it.
I think, the insects are definitely out. They came out the other day, and they're pretty brutal right now. People don't realize how bad the bugs can get in northern Maine. They're as bad as I ever saw them in Alaska here, especially when they come out. Like, they're coming out now, end of May. Like, they haven't eaten or interacted with people since last September, so they're lonely, they're hungry. But I think, in talking about this group, by the end of the last trip, people were eating pretty well on the last trip, but we always have the discussions about, I'm going to go to the diner and I'm going to get, pancakes, eggs, 3 hamburgers. And I think yesterday was a day where people could eat and scratch that itch to the greatest of their abilities and credit cards of just eating ridiculous amounts of food. So hopefully today they're ready to go and don't have like a food coma hangover sort of a thing. I guess we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll know in an hour.
We will. Hopefully they brought bathing suits.
But it brings up an interesting point. Like the job of the 3 of us on this course is we know where the finish line is. We know where we're trying to get these people to. And I think when you're a student on a course like this, often you're just sort of there, like in the moment, living day by day, and maybe don't know exactly where the finish line is. And the 3 of us we have that big picture view in our head, and we're trying to get them to that finish line. And that's the challenge. Getting them to where, not only on the river trips, like getting to the end of the river trip safely, but also imparting the skills and having them learn and have those aha moments where they're going to get to that finish line. So that's our challenge today, I think every morning we get together and we're like, how do we sell this? How do we make it relevant? How do we make them want to get to the finish line? And that's kind of the job, right? That's the role of the instructor in this process. It's not just to drink coffee and make wacky podcasts full of stupid laugh tracks and whatever. Anyway, 2 things I wanted to talk about that are on my list here in front of me. Number 1, repetitive stress injuries. I think we touched on that before, but on our online network, good friend of ours, Anthony, is a physical therapist and posted like some stretches that people do. And I know, Rick, you mentioned, yes, you do those stretches because repetitive stress injuries, especially in your forearms and wrists when you're pulling canoes and working with knives and things, like that's the part of the body that really gets beat up.
Yeah, absolutely. And I follow those exercises, those stretching techniques, because I'm the old guy here in the class, and I got to keep everything mobile. So thank you, Anthony, for those posts. I had the repetitive stress injury real bad going through the journeyman certification, so finding those stretches and that physical therapy type range of motion exercises was huge to me. So recommend it for anyone coming through the course.
Absolutely.
And then the last thing we wanted to talk about was the Main Guide Medic course. We've had a couple of early sign-ups. We're down to having 7 spots left for 2024. This is going to take place end of October, early November. So 7 spots left, and if you don't get one, you're going to have to wait till 2025. So I think a lot of people will wait until the last minute to sign up, but just saying, like, our semester courses are just about full. I think we have 1 spot left for the fall semester. I think we're down to 7 spots for the Main Guide Medic, and if you don't get one, there isn't an extra one this year. So you jump on board before too long. Don't wait or you miss out.
Yeah, a lot of interest in the course, so sign up.
Well, that maybe wraps up this episode. We gotta go get ready to get wet. Go feed those bugs. They're hungry. I can see them at the window. They're swarming.
I keep thinking of the Land of the Lost movie with Will Ferrell when he's got that huge insect sucking the blood out of his neck. I have a feeling that's going to be me today.
Yeah. So we have that to look forward to, which is nice. Thanks for listening. Thanks for wasting a half hour of your day. And we'll hit you back soon with another one. Take care.
Take care.
Take care.
You have been listening to the Jack Mountain Bushcraft Podcast. For more information on our professional wilderness guide training programs that are college accredited and GI Bill approved, visit us on the web at jackmtn.com.